Shaolinzi, aren't you going to release your old man Xu yet? Humph, let me tell you, I'm a lot more powerful now. Xu Liguo's domineering voice rang out. The storage pouch shook violently, as if an ancient force within was about to break free. At the moment this force reached its peak, Wang Lin's gaze remained calm. With a fierce slap of his right hand on the storage pouch, Xu Liguo's overbearing voice immediately weakened. Even the intense sword intent was immediately suppressed and could not spread. Shaolinzi, you still don't understand the situation. I'm not blaming you, but I'm not the same Xu Liguo as I was back then. I've inherited the ancient sword intent. Before he could finish, Wang Lin formed a hand seal with his right hand and slammed it onto the storage pouch again. This time, Xu Liguo's voice abruptly stopped. Enough. Wang Lin furrowed his brows and said calmly. He shifted his body and quickly headed for the abandoned planet ahead. From a distance, this planet appeared blue, with oceans occupying most of its surface. The atmosphere was rich with vitality, clearly inhabited by many mortals. Wang Lin's speed was so fast that he resembled a shooting star, heading straight for the planet. As he moved, an elliptical, illusory light screen formed around him, producing a howling sound as if breaking through the air, rushing toward the planet. The planet's wind barrier layer was thin, and Wang Lin easily passed through it, arriving above the planet. Looking down, a hint of dazedness appeared on his face. This place, it was so similar to Vermilion Bird Star, not in appearance, but in feeling and aura. Wang Lin spread out his divine sense, scanning the area. There were cultivators here, but the highest cultivation level was only at the nascent soul stage, and there wasn't a single cultivator at the spirit transformation stage. He paused for a moment, then, rather than hiding secretly, he chose the highest mountain range on the planet, stepping forward and heading directly there. Hengyun Peak, the highest peak on Azure Spirit Star, though the spiritual energy here was still sparse, was a magnificent sight. From the top, one could see the end of the world. There were clouds and mist swirling around it, giving it the appearance of an immortal mountain. Azure Spirit Star had many cultivation families, just like the numerous mortal countries on the planet. Almost every mortal nation contained one or two cultivation families. This peculiar phenomenon had much to do with the lack of spiritual energy on this star and the absence of spirit transformation cultivators. Hengyun Peak was the place of Zhang family, the family with the highest number of nascent soul cultivators on Azure Spirit Star. Normally, it was the place where their nascent soul cultivators, close to the end of their lifespan, would retreat to enter seclusion. Over time, the once beautiful mountain peak had become barren for some unknown reason, and even the mountain winds that blew from afar became cold and chilling. One day, Zhang Xinhai, the family head of the Zhang family who had been stagnant in the late nascent soul stage for the longest time, walked step by step from the foot of Hengyun Peak, his body exuding the aura of death. Every generation of those nearing the end of their lives would walk to the peak of Hengyun Peak, sit there, and slowly pass away, gazing at the heavens and earth as their lives faded. He could feel his body growing weaker with each step. Slowly and painfully, he walked up to the summit. At the top of Hengyun Peak, there was a large stone platform. As soon as Zhang Xinhai stepped onto it, his gaze sharpened, and with his clouded, soon-to-dissolve eyes, he looked at the person standing on the platform. It was a young man in white, with black hair fluttering in the mountain breeze. Even his clothes rustled in the wind. He stood there, and to Zhang Xinhai, it was as though he didn't exist at all. His divine sense checked, but there was no trace of a person. However, to the naked eye, the figure was very clear. This stark contrast caused Zhang Xinhai to take a few steps back, his face showing a hint of shock beneath his calm expression. Not bad here. The young man with black hair did not turn around, gazing at the distant horizon, where the setting sun slowly descended. He spoke calmly. It was just a simple sentence, devoid of any supernatural power, but to Zhang Xinhai, it felt as though his weak body had been infused with vitality. His status as the family head, the mighty authority, seemed to be suppressed by several folds. Instinctively, he lowered his head, his eyes filled with astonishment. This was a pull of energy, something he recognized with his experience. In ordinary circumstances, even an emperor among mortals would subconsciously bow before him because of this energy pull. But now, the same situation was happening to him. This could only mean one thing. He was seen as no different from a mortal in the eyes of this young man. Unfortunately, such a majestic mountain peak has been used by you all as a place of oblivion. The young man with dark hair shook his head, waving his right hand. Instantly, the massive mountain quivered, and a surge of deathly energy, accumulated over countless years as a resting place, dissipated under his gesture, vanishing without a trace. The entire mountain seemed reborn, like a chronically ill person suddenly recovering. Vitality surged forth in abundance. Zhang Xinhai's body trembled at once. He stared blankly at the scene before him, recovering from the shock after a long moment, his face filled with excitement. Without hesitation, he knelt on the ground and respectfully said, "I am Zhang Xinhai. I pay my respects to you, senior. If you like this Hengyun peak, I can present it to you immediately." Hengyun peak. The dark-haired young man was none other than Wang Lin. He turned to look at Zhang Xinhai, slowly saying, "Your lifespan is about to end. Even with my powers, it's difficult to change that." Zhang Xinhai forced a bitter smile and replied respectfully, "Senior, you've misunderstood. I am aware of my fate and do not seek your assistance. Meeting a great cultivator like you before I die leaves me with no regrets. Not just this mountain peak, even this Azure Spirit Star, if you desire it, I can also offer it." Wang Lin turned around and lightly tapped Zhang Xinhai's brow with his right hand, casting a spirit art. He calmly said, "I cannot change your fate, but I can help extend your life by 10 years through burning your own spiritual energy." As he cast the spirit art, Wang Lin inwardly sighed. This ability was something he could muster after glimpsing the path to the third step. If he had been capable back then, Li Muan would not have ended up trapped within the heavenly reversal pearl. When the spirit art landed on Zhang Xinhai's brow, he trembled, instantly feeling a surge of vitality rising from his own spiritual energy. His complexion became rosy. Taking a deep breath, he looked at Wang Lin and respectfully said, "Thank you, senior. If you have any orders, I will do my utmost to fulfill them." Having become the head of the Zhang family, he was no fool and was well aware that nothing is given without reason. Seeing Wang Lin praise the mountain, he promptly offered it because he understood that a person with such cultivation, standing here and saying such words, was already quite benevolent. If he were of a temperamental nature, he could easily have taken it by force. If he were displeased, he could easily slaughter a few small cultivation families like theirs. Zhang Xinhai speculated that the person before him was clearly not from Azure Spirit Star, but rather had come from outside. Anyone who could traverse the starry sky must have a cultivation level above the infant metamorphosis stage. Wang Lin glanced at Zhang Xinhai and said flatly, "I give you 10 years to collect various grievances from this mundane world. The more, the better. If you finally satisfy me, then as long as I am in this star, your Zhang family will continue to thrive. Go." With a flick of his sleeve, he sent Zhang Xinhai away. Zhang Xinhai felt a strong wind rush towards him. Everything around him became dense fog, and the sound of howling winds filled his ears. When it all cleared, he found himself standing at the foot of the mountain. The scenes he had just witnessed made him feel as though he was dreaming. Reflexively touching his brow and sensing the vigorous life force within him, he took a deep breath and bowed toward the mountain, excitement glimmering in his eyes as he quickly left. "I must strive to fulfill that senior's request." Zhang Xinhai became like a streak of light, racing towards the Zhang family. After sending Zhang Xinhai off, Wang Lin remained silent for a moment, then tapped his storage pouch. Immediately, the soul banner appeared, a 3-zhang-tall banner that he gently pressed into the ground among the mountain stones. As the banner flapped in the mountain breeze, souls flew out and circled the entire peak. The 3 major souls coalesced, merging with the surroundings, and soon, thick black mist enveloped the mountain. Wang Lin waved his right hand, and suddenly, a powerful force burst forth from his fingers, crashing into the mountain's interior. With loud thuds, a vast cave mansion appeared. The entrance to the cave mansion was at the peak of the mountain, surrounded by rugged stone formations, creating a remarkable sight. Wang Lin lightly tapped his right index finger, and a seal inscription suddenly appeared on the stone above the cave entrance. The inscription shimmered, emanating a trace of pressure. Having completed these tasks, Wang Lin sat cross-legged, his divine sense spreading out as he once more swept across the entire Azure Spirit Star. This time, he didn't just observe, he projected a thought. From today onward, this will be my cultivation star. Within 10,000 miles of Hengyun Peak is a forbidden area. Those who trespass will not be spared. Wang Lin's thought thundered like a storm, reverberating throughout the land of Azure Spirit Star, reaching the ears of every cultivator and causing their faces to change dramatically. Yet, not a single person dared resist. The overwhelming sensation of Wang Lin's thought echoing throughout the planet filled them with astonishment and an unshakable feeling of power. From this day forth, Azure Spirit Star had a master, and that master was Wang Lin. Wang Lin was the most powerful existence on Azure Spirit Star, the pinnacle of all beings. It was similar to how the Blood Ancestor, on his Blood Star, wielded the power to control life and death. It was also akin to Tian Yunzi, whose supreme status on Destiny Star was unquestionable. However, the Zhang family appeared in the role of Wang Lin's emissary. For 5 years, these cultivators had been moving through the streets, continuously extracting resentment from the common people. This type of energy existed within almost every mortal, though the amounts varied. The common people on Azure Spirit Star were too numerous, and after 5 years, less than 40% had been gathered. As half the time had passed, Zhang Xinhai grew somewhat anxious, but there was nothing he could do. They were already working at full speed. Even Zhang Xinhai himself had ventured out into the mortal realm to gather resentment, sending out his entire clan, with all cultivators above the 5th layer of Qi condensation, to help. For 5 years, Wang Lin had remained seated in meditation on Hengyun Peak, refining his magical treasures. He was refining the rivers and mountains screened from within his nascent soul. This item had been heavily damaged and was being repaired in his soul with thunder radiance. Additionally, he was also refining the Immortal World Mountain Stone. Due to cracks in the stone, it had become unstable during soul extraction, but Wang Lin used his nascent soul's energy to slowly repair it. As for the crown, which merged the crimson butterfly and the blue rose, Wang Lin had studied it for a long time but still had not fully understood it. These 3 magical treasures were newly acquired, and during his refining process, Wang Lin took time to examine a treasure that seemed ordinary but was actually significant. It was the Kunji Whip. This whip had been with Wang Lin for a long time, and its powers had clear strengths and weaknesses. Before, Wang Lin hadn't paid it much attention, but now he found it increasingly important. Of all my treasures, when it comes to sharpness, this item can't compare to the Immortal Sword or the Curved Blade. For defense, it is no match for the Soul Banner or the Rivers and Mountain Screen. In terms of magical power, it is weaker than the Immortal World Mountain Stone or the Divine Chariot. But it is the only one that contains the essence of the 3rd step that I have seen. This is indeed strange. Wang Lin muttered, gazing at the Kunji Whip in his hands. It looked quite ordinary, yet years ago, when the Heavenly Ghost had seen it, he had almost been struck speechless, as if recognizing something. Extracting the nascent soul aligns secretly with the way of the Tao. If we must explain causality, one could say the body is the cause, and the nascent soul is the effect. This item is a refinement of the latter in the way of causality. Wang Lin's eyes glinted, deep in thought. His comprehension had gradually shifted from the cycle of life and death to the path of cause and effect. This path was vast, and what Wang Lin had grasped so far was just the tip of the iceberg. Yet, even that was enough to make him feel its tremendous power. The concept of cause and effect. My current understanding isn't enough to manifest something as substantial as the illusory canvas of life and death, but I have seen the direction of the 3rd step. I should be able to take a shortcut. Wang Lin rubbed the Kunji Whip, his eyes growing brighter. He thought of a method. Before the concept of cause and effect could materialize, he could use a practical force to prepare for his journey into the Thunder Immortal realm. Using the Kunji Whip to replace the refinement of the latter part of the concept of cause and effect should work. Wang Lin pondered, his mind made up. If it were someone else, they would have hesitated, unsure whether such a decision would interfere with the existence of their concept. But Wang Lin was different. He had already seen the future path and knew that, although this would affect the concept, it wouldn't be a significant problem. After a moment of silence, Wang Lin's eyes flashed, and he grabbed the Kunji Whip. He flicked it, and it immediately produced sharp cracking sounds, as if shaking the soul. You will be the tool to carry my concept. Wang Lin's eyes gleamed with a strange light as he placed the whip on his knees and closed his eyes in concentration, beginning the refining process. To integrate the concept into a magical treasure, a connection of mind and spirit was required. He slowly merged his essence into the whip. As time passed, often without noticeable change, seasons came and went, and before long, 3 years had passed. Wang Lin had lived on Azure Spirit Star for 8 years. Throughout this time, he never descended the mountain. In fact, other than Zhang Xinhai, no one had seen Wang Lin. However, the title of Hengyun Peak's master, the ancestor of Azure Spirit Star, had gradually become more significant in the hearts of all the cultivators on the star. Especially with the dense black mist that lingered outside Hengyun Peak, which sent a chill through the hearts of the cultivators. Some cultivators, perhaps having lost their minds due to their training, recklessly entered the mist, intending to challenge the supposed authority of the ancestor of Azure Spirit Star. These cultivators were immediately consumed by the black mist the moment they stepped into it. All that could be heard were their anguished screams echoing through the sky, a warning to all others not to venture into that place. As for mortals, it wasn't as complicated for them. Once they saw the black mist, they would instantly recognize the danger and avoid entering. No one would dare step foot inside. Even if someone truly got lost and wandered in, Wang Lin wouldn't recklessly take a life. The soul banner carried his divine sense, which would naturally put anyone who entered into a deep sleep and send them to the distant edge of the world. Over these past 3 years, Wang Lin had been focusing on refining his magical treasures. However, the only disturbance had come from Xu Liguo. Somehow, this person had broken the seal on Wang Lin's storage pouch. Although Xu Liguo couldn't get out of the pouch, his constant shouting was unbearable. One day, the kunji whip on Wang Lin's knees had begun to merge with some understanding of intent. It was now easier to control than his divine sense, and with the integration of karmic changes, the whip's power had grown tremendously. But at that moment, an out-of-place voice rang out once again. "Little Lindsay, are you too scared to let your dear Grandpa Xu out? Now that I've gotten stronger, you're afraid to release me, right? Don't worry, I won't harm you. I've already thought it through. From now on, you'll follow me. We'll swap roles, and I'll be the master." Xu Liguo's arrogant voice grew louder and more domineering. Wang Lin furrowed his brow. If it weren't for the pressing urgency of time, he would have already taken action to teach Xu Liguo a lesson. But instead, Xu Liguo hadn't learned his lesson and only became more insolent. A cold glint flashed in Wang Lin's eyes. He slapped the storage pouch and said coldly, "Get out." "Huh? You dare speak to Grandpa Xu like that? Little Lindsay, you clearly don't understand the situation. I'm no longer the Xu Liguo of the past." Xu Liguo's voice echoed, and a cloud of black mist rose from the pouch. The mist exuded a sharp sword intent, which cut through the air as it formed into Xu Liguo's figure. The moment he appeared, he burst into maniacal laughter, shouting, "I, Xu Liguo, have made it this far. Ha! Heaven has finally shown mercy, and I've made it to the top." Wang Lin gazed coldly at Xu Liguo but didn't speak. Xu Liguo stopped laughing and glanced down at Wang Lin, his eyes full of murderous intent. At that moment, he regained his former arrogant demeanor. In a flash, his body quickly contracted and transformed into a giant sword in midair. This sword looked exactly like the immortal sword. With a powerful thrust, a sword chi erupted, imbued with the essence of an ancient sword intent, sending an overwhelming aura through the air. In an instant, it seemed as though the sword could shatter the void and was racing toward Wang Lin. Wang Lin's gaze remained cold as the giant sword hurtled toward him. His body remained still, but the kunji whip on his knees flickered and shot into the air. A strange aura radiated from it, and the surrounding mountain rocks within 100 paces were immediately enveloped by this force. This energy was filled with an unbelievable power, as though the space within 100 paces had been completely sealed off, exuding an oppressive aura that threatened to crush anyone within. Xu Liguo felt this the most. He cried out in alarm, and his sword form became unstable. However, he quickly released a more concentrated sword chi to counteract the pressure. At that moment, Wang Lin's voice slowly echoed in the air. The events of this world cannot escape karma. Causes everywhere, and thus, the effect exists everywhere. With a flick of the kunji whip, there was a thunderous roar. As the whip lashed, it seemed to open the gates of destiny. The kunji whip twisted and formed a perfect circle, trapping Xu Liguo's giant sword within. In an instant, the sword began to break apart. Effect is the root of all cause. Wang Lin's voice rose again. The disintegration of the giant sword was almost instantaneous. It quickly turned into a thick black mist, within which Xu Liguo's face appeared. He was shocked and terrified, a hint of fear flashing in his eyes. Master, I was wrong. Little Xu was wrong. Please spare me. Please, just one more chance." Xu Liguo pleaded with desperation, his voice full of misery. Wang Lin's cold gaze fell on the quickly vanishing black mist inside the circle formed by the kunji whip. He calmly spoke, "Your ancient sword intent was obtained because of me. Therefore, the effect that arises from it belongs to me as well." Xu Liguo, in horror, realized his black mist was dissipating even faster. A sense of impending doom flooded over him. Panicked, he begged, "Master, I know I was wrong. I'll never do it again. Moreover, if you hadn't turned me into a demon back then, I wouldn't have ended up like this, right? Isn't that karma, Master?" Xu Liguo spoke frantically. He could feel his essence dispersing and his entire being filled with regret. "Never should I have provoked this cursed star. For countless years, I have never succeeded. Xu Liguo, how could you be so forgetful? Xu Liguo cursed inwardly, wishing he could slap himself. A faint smile appeared on Wang Lin's lips as he slowly spoke. That's your karmic debt, not mine. This object, once integrated into the concept, had no form. It merged with the concept itself, becoming part of the void, visible only by feel. Nearly on the brink of collapse, Xu Liguo quickly stepped back a few paces, his face filled with terror. All of his previous arrogance had dissipated, and now, a sycophantic expression appeared on his face. He hastily said, Master's divine power is even greater now. Actually, Xu Liguo just wanted you to practice your divine abilities a few more times, so that's why I spoke as I did before. Master, my loyalty to you is known to heaven. I have absolutely no intention of defying you. Wang Lin gave Xu Liguo a glance and spoke flatly, since you're out, there's no need to return to the storage pouch. Stay here and comprehend your ancient sword intent in this mountain range. Xu Liguo was stunned. He hadn't expected this cursed old demon to be so easygoing this time. His eyes shifted, and he quickly put on a loyal expression, saying, Master, Xu Liguo can't bear to leave you. I feel at ease only when I'm by your side. He spoke carefully, casting a glance at Wang Lin. Wang Lin's expression remained unchanged, and upon hearing this, he nodded and said, in that case, stay nearby. Xu Liguo's face broke into a smile, though his heart was bitter. He thought to himself, could it be that this cursed star is really allowing me to act freely within this vast range? No, this doesn't match his character. There must be something off. Lucky for me, Xu Liguo is smart, or I might have suffered again. With this thought, Xu Liguo felt smug. He quickly settled into a cross-legged posture, ready to meditate. After a while, though, he began to feel uneasy, frequently casting glances at Wang Lin, trying to detect any signs of deception. Wang Lin paid no attention to Xu Liguo. Instead, he tapped the storage pouch, and immediately, the mosquito beast and thunder frog appeared. The mosquito beast comfortably lay on the thunder frog's back, letting out a screech that could be interpreted as greeting Wang Lin before lazily settling down again, seemingly unwilling to leave. Along with them, several mosquito beasts emerged. These were the young ones that had followed Wang Lin before. Though they had not yet matured, they still appeared quite ferocious. As for the thunder frog, it had clearly grown accustomed to the annoying mosquito beast on its back. After appearing, it rumbled with thunder from its belly, found a spot nearby, and lay still, almost as if it were going to sleep. Next, the divine chariot flew out, and with a loud crash, it transformed into a thunder beast in midair. The moment it appeared, its eyes locked on the thunder frog, and it began to growl lowly. The thunder frog, which had been sluggish before, suddenly snapped to attention. It opened its eyes wide and stared fixedly at the thunder beast, rumbling thunder from its belly. The mosquito beast on its back also perked up, their interest piqued by the thunder beast. Xu Liguo's eyes widened as he closely studied the thunder beast. He thought to himself, as expected of the master. Just a short time without seeing it, and another ridiculous beast has appeared. Let them fight. That's for the best. Once they fight, I'll show them who's really been with the master the longest. He chuckled inwardly. But seriously, the master really does have a way with beasts. I, Xu Liguo, can't compare in that regard. My talent lies with beautiful women. A fleeting image of a young beauty from the land of demonic spirits crossed his mind. Sigh, as they say, the more love, the more regret. That's something this cursed old demon Wang can't possibly understand. Xu Liguo sighed with feeling, glancing at the thunder beast, the thunder frog, and the mosquito beasts, then looking back at Wang Lin, who was meditating in stillness. He felt a mixture of loneliness and smugness. The ritual of refining magical treasures continued, but at this point, it was no longer the focus. With limited time, Wang Lin decided to make minor adjustments to his divine abilities based on his observations of the third step of cultivation. His eyes narrowed in thought. Among the divine abilities he had mastered, the most powerful one was the /Luo art. However, unless his cultivation had reached the yin deficiency realm, each use of this ability would consume a significant portion of his primordial energy. Next was the immobilization technique, which was as powerful as the /Luo art and often played a crucial role at decisive moments. Beyond these two abilities, there was the Annihilation Finger, Demon Transformation Finger, and Netherworld Three Fingers, as well as the three Taoist techniques derived from the Path of Life and Death Reincarnation, Tao Transformation Yellow Spring, Condensed Spring Soul, and Netherworld Power. The abilities he needed to adjust were the Annihilation Finger, Demon Transformation Finger, and Netherworld 3 Fingers. Continuing to cultivate these abilities posed a grave risk to the third step of cultivation. These techniques were incomplete, and practicing them would cause physical discomfort. Although Wang Lin didn't fully understand why they were harmful to the third step, he had a strong intuitive sense. He pondered for a moment, then flicked his right index finger, performing the 3 divine arts one by one, attempting to discern their secrets. Gradually, his finger movements became faster and faster, as the 3 techniques, Annihilation, Demon Transformation, and Yellow Spring, repeated in a continuous loop. Wang Lin furrowed his brow, relying on a vague feeling in his heart to seek out their underlying patterns, gradually refining his technique. This process was extremely draining, and it wasn't long before he began to feel fatigued. After a brief rest, Wang Lin resumed his work. The wheel of time turned once more, and 2 years passed. During this period, most of Wang Lin's focus had been on analyzing and refining the divine arts, but he still hadn't reached a satisfactory level. Wang Lin understood that his impatience was to blame. However, he did not give up. Instead, he continued to make steady improvements, pushing his limits. If any cultivator in the second step of Glimpse of Nirvana or Shattered Nirvana had seen him, they would have been stunned. For this level of refinement was akin to deriving the primal celestial arts from a single divine technique. Even figures like Tian Yunzi would find it incredibly difficult to achieve. Over the span of 2 years, the Thunder Frog and Thunder Beast had become deeply hostile to each other, though they had not fought. The Thunder Frog, lacking in cultivation, dared not make a move, while the Thunder Beast, though sensing a faint threat, showed disdain. As for the Mosquito Beast, it had shifted its interest from the Thunder Frog to the Thunder Beast, occasionally flying around it as if wanting to land on its back. However, it never succeeded, and the more it failed, the more its curiosity grew. Xu Liguo looked on disdainfully. Over time, he noticed that Wang Lin seemed to have forgotten about him. Cautiously, he backed away, eventually leaving Wang Lin's 100 zhang radius. He transformed into black mist and joyfully roamed the vast mountains, howling in the wind. But he still remembered Wang Lin's words and did not dare venture more than 1,000 miles away. Gradually, the lack of any company bored him. Within 1,000 miles, there wasn't a single soul, as outsiders often kept their distance, which frustrated Xu Liguo. A year and a half ago, a few cultivators had passed by, initially hesitant to enter, but Xu Liguo used illusion techniques to deceive them, trapping them, teasing them, and eventually letting them go. Since then, however, no cultivators dared to approach. The few that had been released would shudder whenever they recalled that experience, even many years later. One day, as he was aimlessly drifting within the 1,000-mile radius, hoping to encounter an unwitting mortal, Xu Liguo suddenly shuddered. A long-lost excitement overwhelmed him like a tidal wave. His eyes shone brightly as he stared at the fog in the distance, unable to contain his excitement, shouting out loud. Finally, someone has come. 1,000 miles away, at the edge of the black mist, Zhang Xinhai, gaunt and emanating an aura of death, walked alongside a nervous middle-aged man. The man was dressed in black robes, his cultivation also having reached the perfect nascent soul stage. "Father, are we really going?" The middle-aged man looked warily at the black mist in the distance, speaking in a low voice. "Of course we are. Your father's lifespan is almost over. This trip is not only to fulfill the request of our predecessor, but also to introduce you to him. After I return to the abyss of oblivion, you will take my place, working for him to ensure that the Zhang family's legacy is preserved," Zhang Xinhai said solemnly. The middle-aged man hesitated for a moment before speaking again. "But, father, I've heard from a few fellow cultivators that this predecessor has some peculiarities. Over a year ago, several of our fellow cultivators..." Before he could finish, Zhang Xinhai turned and glared at him. The middle-aged man immediately fell silent. Xu Liguo, like a wandering spirit, instantly closed the distance. Hidden within the black mist, Zhang Xinhai and his son remained unaware of his presence. Xu Liguo, full of excitement, eyed the father and son, muttering to himself, "Not bad, not bad. The old one's about to die, he can't withstand my torment. Your grandpa Xu will show some mercy and spare your body. As for the young one..." Heh. Xu Liguo's excitement grew, and his gaze, piercing through the black mist, began to linger on the middle-aged man with a hint of lecherousness. He cleared his throat and, with a righteous tone, called out, "Who goes there? Announce yourself." Zhang Xinhai took a deep breath. He stopped at the 1,000-mile mark, not entering, but clasped his hands in respect, saying, "Junior Zhang Xinhai, I have completed the task given by the predecessor. I wish to meet him. His hoarse voice slowly pierced the black mist. Xu Liguo's eyes shifted. The old one may enter. I'll take you to see my master. Zhang Xinhai paused, then stepped forward and entered the black mist. As soon as he did, he felt a whirlwind wrap around his body, sending him flying forward at breakneck speed. Soon, they arrived at the mountain peak. The fierce winds dissipated, and he quickly spotted Wang Lin. Standing respectfully to one side, he said, "Senior, I have fulfilled my task. I have gathered all the resentment of the mortals on Qiling Star." As he spoke, he took out several jade slips, over 1,000 in total, from his storage pouch and placed them on the ground, stepping back respectfully. After seeing Zhang Xinhai off, Xu Liguo excitedly returned from miles away. Standing in the black mist, he stared at the middle-aged man outside and laughed. "Little brat, come in. Don't be afraid. Your grandpa Xu has something good for you." When he saw the man hesitate, he immediately shouted, "Why aren't you coming in yet?" The middle-aged man gritted his teeth and stepped into the black mist. Wang Lin opened his eyes. His divine sense swept over the jade slips, and he immediately felt the resentment inside. The amount of resentment was shocking, so massive it seemed to have formed a storm of resentment. "Very good. The one you brought will be my emissary outside Hengyun Peak from now on," Wang Lin said slowly. After a brief pause, he took out a pill from his storage pouch and threw it to Zhang Xinhai. "Let your son take this. If his talent is enough, he might be able to use the spiritual energy in the pill to have a chance at a breakthrough into the spirit transformation stage." Zhang Xinhai's face lit up with joy. He quickly caught it, carefully placed it in his arms, and said gratefully, "Thank you, Senior. This resentment is an ethereal thing and will regenerate. The Zhang family will need to gather it again every few years." Wang Lin instructed, then slapped his storage pouch and took out a few red seeds, handing them to Zhang Xinhai. "This is called the Ascension Fruit. Have your clan plant them, and with the cultivator's spiritual energy, try to plant as many as possible over the next decade." Zhang Xinhai quickly nodded in agreement. The seeds of the Ascension Fruit had originally been a gift from Thousand Sunflower's storage pouch. Zhang Xinhai and his son left Hengyun Peak, but his son appeared in a daze, a strange feeling lingering, as if he had a lingering taste. As for Xu Liguo, Wang Lin had strictly confined him to his quarters. Had it not been for the relatively minor nature of Xu Liguo's actions, Wang Lin might have even considered refining him. Restricted to within 100 feet, Xu Liguo wore a face of grievance, but dared not sneak out again. He spent his days gazing at the distance, feeling quite emotional inside. It was just a temporary fusion with his physical body. What's the big deal? Sigh. Wang Lin didn't have time to deal with Xu Liguo. After imposing his confinement, he began refining his divine abilities. As for the resentment, he absorbed it one by one, integrating it into the netherworld. After absorbing the resentment, the netherworld immediately transformed. The resentment fused together, slowly beginning to take on the form of a spring soul. Time passed quickly. Improving his divine abilities drained a lot of Wang Lin's energy. Though he hadn't completely succeeded yet, in the process, he continued to grasp the direction of the third step, and his conceptual realm gradually improved. In the end, in the 18th year since arriving on Qiling Star, his cycle of life and death conceptual realm reached complete perfection, flawless in every way. This meant that, with enough immortal energy, he could truly reach the pinnacle of the first step of cultivation. Immortal Jade. Wang Lin still had some in his storage pouch, but he wasn't sure if it would be enough. However, even if it wasn't, he planned to drink the immortal liquid. This time, he had to reach the peak of the late stage of the first step and ascend to the pinnacle of cultivation. First step of cultivation. Wang Lin's eyes glowed with determination. Back when I sought the Tao, the ancient demon Bailuo once said that a rebellious cultivator would provoke heavenly retribution. I wonder, if one day I break through to the first step and reach the Yin deficiency realm, will the heavenly retribution still come down upon me? Wang Lin looked up at the sky, a cold glint in his eyes. Inside the formation, Wang Lin sat cross-legged, closing his eyes and breathing in deeply. Each breath caused a large amount of immortal energy to spill out of the formation and into his body. Over and over again, his immortal energy gradually solidified. For those at the first step of cultivation, reaching the peak wasn't impossible. But those who reached it were few, and the reason wasn't due to the conceptual realm or immortal jade, but due to primordial energy. If, during the first step, the primordial energy didn't fully merge with the primordial spirit, even if one reached the first step, they wouldn't achieve perfection. Similarly, Even if there was enough primordial energy, if the cultivator suffered severe injuries during the first step and damaged their primordial spirit, causing the primordial energy to scatter, they would also fail to reach perfection. It could be said that primordial energy was key to perfecting the first step of cultivation. Moreover, first-step cultivators couldn't absorb the primordial energy from the heavens and earth to replenish themselves, so few managed to reach perfection. At this moment, after refining his primordial energy in the thunder pool, Wang Lin had reached the limit of merging with his primordial spirit, meeting the most basic requirements. With his comprehension elevated, his cultivation began to advance as he absorbed large amounts of immortal qi, gradually approaching the pinnacle of perfection in his quest for the Tao. However, the immortal qi required to reach the completion of the first step of cultivation was a frightening amount. After a year of continuous absorption, Wang Lin's immortal jade was completely exhausted. Without hesitation, he took out some immortal liquid from his storage pouch and swallowed it. As the immortal liquid entered his body, a strong sense of drunkenness washed over him. His body exhaled a mist that carried a wine-like aroma, spreading around him. At the same time, the immortal liquid transformed into an overwhelming force of immortal power, surging through Wang Lin's body like a powerful thrust, rapidly propelling his cultivation toward the completion of his quest for the Tao. With the completion of his intent, immortal qi stirred with his breath. This was the description of reaching the pinnacle of the Tao. His intent reached perfection, without the slightest flaw. His Tao heart was firm, his immortal power alive and abundant, and even his breath seemed to contain immortal qi. On the 19th year and 8th month since Wang Lin arrived at the Azure Spirit Star, he reached the pinnacle of the Tao. In all directions, within countless miles, as Wang Lin stepped into this perfection, all of his immortal jade turned to dust. The barren ground began to sprout fresh green shoots, and from a distance, it looked like a land of vitality. Wang Lin slowly opened his eyes, and within them was the vastness of the sky, with wisps of clouds drifting by. After 1,000 years of cultivation, I've finally reached perfection. Wang Lin exhaled, a smile playing at the corner of his mouth. Thinking back to 1,000 years ago, when he was a nobody from the Hengyun sect, and now having reached the first step of cultivation perfection, far surpassing the Vermilion Bird Sun of that time. This was something that even the people of Vermilion Bird Star could never have imagined. Wang Lin did not stand up. Instead, with a sweep of his right hand over his storage pouch, a shimmering golden immortal brush appeared in his hand. Holding it in one hand, he casually began to sketch in front of him, as though he were painting. His previous limit had been 7 strokes of a symbol. Now, with a single fluid motion, as the 7th stroke fell, he added an 8th. The 8 symbols emitted a dazzling golden glow, like the sun at its peak, causing anyone who looked at them to lose themselves in their awe. The power of 8 strokes is a full step higher than before. Wang Lin's gaze was calm, and at this moment, he did not seem like a cultivator, but like a scholar well-versed in the classics. As he finished the strokes, the symbols dissipated, and the primordial spirit within them returned to Wang Lin's body. Wang Lin stood up and took a step forward, vanishing without a trace. Half a month later, a flash of thunder radiance shot up from the Azure Spirit Star, piercing the sky. In the heart of this thunder, Wang Lin sat cross-legged on the back of a thunder beast, eyes closed, silent. All the cultivators on Azure Spirit Star looked up at that moment. Though their expressions were respectful, there was a sense of relief, as if the invisible pressure that had weighed on them was slowly fading with Wang Lin's departure. Before leaving, Wang Lin took with him the ascension fruits he had cultivated over the past 10 years, as well as another batch of grudge jade slips. The spring soul within his netherworld was showing signs of condensation and awakening. The thunder radiance howled as Wang Lin departed from the Azure Spirit Star, a place he had called home for nearly 20 years. This had been his cave mansion. After obtaining the Thunder Cauldron, he would naturally return. Traveling from here to the Thunder Immortal realm would be safer. The thunder radiance roared as it sped across the starry sky. Wang Lin opened his eyes on the Thunder Beast's back, revealing a thoughtful expression. To enter the Thunder Immortal realm, one must possess the Thunder Cauldron. Without it, there was no way to reach the Thunder Immortal realm, something Wang Lin knew well. However, unlike the Luotian star domain, the Thunder Cauldron wasn't scattered, but was instead mysteriously gathered at the Thunder Immortal Palace. People from the Thunder Immortal Palace distributed one or more of these cauldrons based on the strength of each cultivation family. With only 3 months left before the Thunder Immortal realm opened, now was the time when various families would obtain their Thunder Cauldrons. Wang Lin's eyes flickered, and he had already made up his mind. If I can't get the Thunder Cauldron, I'll just steal one. Wang Lin's right hand gently patted the Thunder Beast's head, and the beast immediately lifted its head, letting out a roar, looking somewhat pleased. In fact, if Wang Lin were to find Xun'er, he might also obtain the Thunder Cauldron. But Xun'er's cultivation was too high, and if they met frequently, it could expose some weaknesses. Therefore, unless it was a matter of great importance, Wang Lin didn't want to seek out this person. Not every cultivator entering the Thunder Immortal realm had reached the second step of cultivation, as few people achieved that level. Most of the entrants were at the infant metamorphosis or quest for Dao stages. In the southern Luo heaven domain, Wang Lin had a jade slip left by Xun'er, which led him to a cultivation star. Wang Lin did not pay much attention to the name of this star, but the jade slip had mentioned that there were 2 cultivation families on this star. Every time the Thunder Immortal realm opened, these 2 families would each receive 1 or 2 Thunder Cauldrons. Moreover, no one in these families had reached the completion of the quest for Dao. Upon arriving at the cultivation star, Wang Lin scanned the area with his divine sense and found that the strongest members of these 2 families were not present. Thus, he floated in space and began to meditate. Time slowly passed, and 1 month before the opening of the Thunder Immortal realm, in front of Wang Lin, more than 10 beams of light shot through the sky like meteors, howling towards him. Among the returning cultivators, one had reached the deficiency realm, while the others ranged from the nascent soul stage to the infant metamorphosis. Their speed was incredibly fast, and they howled as they approached, but they immediately halted not far away. One by one, their gazes fell upon Wang Lin ahead of them. The cultivator who reached the deficiency realm was an elderly man with silver hair, his eyes gleaming with light. His primordial energy was still unstable, clearly having just reached the deficiency realm not long ago. He stepped forward and scrutinized Wang Lin carefully, a look of suspicion and uncertainty crossing his face. "Esteemed emissary, what brings you to the altar star?" the elderly man asked in a deep voice. Wang Lin opened his eyes, his brow furrowing slightly, and with a calm gaze, he replied slowly, "Are you here to retrieve the Thunder Cauldron?" The elderly man's expression changed slightly. "Yes, esteemed emissary. What is it you wish to speak of?" "I need a Thunder Cauldron," Wang Lin said plainly. The elderly man stared at Wang Lin for a long while before suddenly laughing. His laughter carried a hint of arrogance, and his eyes flashed as he shouted, "I had heard rumors about someone impersonating a Thunder Immortal Palace emissary when we went to the Thunder Immortal Palace, but I thought it was absurd. Now, seeing you, young one, I am certain you are the imposter." "Oh." Wang Lin's expression remained unchanged as he calmly looked at the elderly man. The elderly man sneered. "Every Thunder Immortal Palace emissary has numerous cultivation clans supporting them. A mere Thunder Cauldron should be easy to acquire. Moreover, within the southern Luo heaven domain, I have seen every Thunder Immortal Palace emissary. Yet, you are a complete stranger. What's more, with the opening of the Thunder Immortal realm, all Thunder Immortal Palace emissaries have gathered at the Thunder Immortal Palace and will not leave until the realm opens." Wang Lin nodded slightly, no longer wasting words. He rose, and with a movement of his shadow, the Immortal Guard puppet instantly materialized. With a single step, it moved forward, golden light flashing, and it punched out. The punch created a sonic boom as it rushed straight toward the elderly man. The elderly man's expression shifted. Although he recognized that Wang Lin had reached the perfect nascent soul stage, he thought the Thunder Beast Wang Lin rode was a fake and had not taken it seriously. However, he didn't expect the opponent to possess such a puppet. With a cold grunt, the elderly man made a hand gesture, pointing forward. Immediately, a black flame materialized in his hand. With a flick of his fingers, the flame exploded outward, scattering into countless fiery dots that spread across the surroundings like stars. His clan members had already scattered and were watching from a distance. The Immortal Guard puppet paid no attention to the fiery dots, allowing them to fall on it. Its speed not only did not decrease but actually increased. The punch, carrying the sound of wind, arrived at the elderly man's front and, as it landed, formed a dragon of air that tore through the sky. The elderly man's face changed slightly. He immediately retreated, and with a hand gesture, a fire shield appeared before him. The Immortal Guard's fist landed on the fire shield, producing a loud, rumbling sound. Cracks appeared on the fire shield, and it collapsed instantly. As the sound echoed, the elderly man's face turned pale, and his figure retreated quickly. The Immortal Guard puppet was also forced back a few steps by the recoil, and black flames spread from its arm, engulfing its body. "I only need one Thunder Cauldron," Wang Lin said calmly, looking at the elderly man. The elderly man stared at Wang Lin, still shocked by the power of the puppet's punch. Without using his primordial energy abilities, he knew he couldn't defeat the puppet that matched his cultivation level. This person possesses such a puppet, definitely not an ordinary individual. Even if he's impersonating a Thunder Immortal Palace emissary, he has nothing to do with me. However, if I just give up a Thunder Cauldron, my Zhang family will lose face. The elderly man was conflicted. If Wang Lin had reached the second step, the elderly man might have agreed, especially since his family had obtained 3 Thunder Cauldrons, and giving one away wasn't impossible. But now, facing a cultivator at the perfect nascent soul stage asking for it, it was difficult for him to simply hand one over without losing face. Wang Lin wasn't interested in talking further. Although the elderly man's cultivation was slightly beyond his expectation, he had just entered the Yin deficiency realm and was still unstable. Wang Lin, at the perfect nascent soul stage, was more than capable of dealing with him, especially with his divine abilities and magical treasures. He tapped his storage pouch, and a mountain stone appeared in his hand. As it appeared, it immediately transformed into a massive immortal mountain, radiating dense immortal energy, with a hint of pressure emanating from it. Wang Lin placed his right hand on it, and the stone trembled, releasing a wave of ancient energy. This energy condensed beneath his right hand, and as he lifted it, mist quickly gathered, forming a mist ball the size of a fist. Seeing this, the elderly man's face changed drastically. Without hesitation, he retreated, his eyes filled with terror as he cried out, "Spirit extraction art. You're only a first-step perfect nascent soul cultivator. How could you possibly use such a divine ability?" Wang Lin's gaze was calm as he extended his right hand forward. In an instant, a mist surged out, carrying an overwhelming pressure that charged toward the elder. At the same time, Wang Lin's body moved, following closely behind the mist. He raised his right hand, and a bolt of thunder radiance began to gather within it. In the blink of an eye, a deafening thunderous roar echoed from the starry sky. Amidst the flashing of lightning, a tangible bolt of lightning coalesced above Wang Lin's hand. At this moment, Wang Lin seemed like an immortal who commanded thunder and lightning. Holding the flash of lightning in his hand, his eyes were cold and calculating as he stepped toward the elder. The elder's expression changed dramatically, and he immediately retreated, forming seals with his hands before placing them on his forehead. With a slight press, a strange movement occurred at the center of his brow, and suddenly, a gap appeared, as though a third eye had formed. His face flushed bright red, and his blood surged rapidly, seeming to gather in his face. The primordial energy within his body flowed wildly, merging with his blood as it focused on his brow. With a tearing sensation as immense pain surged throughout the elder's body, his third eye slowly opened. Low growls escaped his mouth as he stared at Wang Lin. His hands formed seals and pressed against the pressure points on his ears. With a thunderous sound, the third eye at the center of his brow suddenly opened wide, and a red beam shot out from it, rapidly fanning forward in a fan-like shape, spreading with piercing speed. Wang Lin's expression shifted. The elder's divine ability was too bizarre. He paused momentarily, and just as the soul of the immortal mountain neared the elder, it coincided with the moment the third eye opened. In the red light, the soul of the immortal mountain rapidly disintegrated. This scene made Wang Lin's gaze narrow. Without hesitation, he hurled the lightning from his right hand. With a deafening roar, the lightning howled as it streaked toward the elder. The elder had already struggled with his mysterious primordial energy divine ability. After all, he had only just reached the Yin deficiency stage less than 2 years ago, and his primordial energy was still too weak. At this moment, the red light of his third eye only lasted for 3 breaths before it could no longer withstand the pressure. The third eye automatically closed, vanishing into thin air. As the lightning surged and the remaining soul of the immortal mountain approached, the elder gritted his teeth and slapped his storage pouch. He took out an item and held it high above his head. Wang Lin's left hand reached out and effortlessly seized the item from the elder's grasp. It was none other than the Thunder Cauldron. After collecting the Thunder Cauldron, Wang Lin did not leave. Instead, his eyes glimmered with a strange light as he gazed at the elder and spoke in a slow, calm voice. "Could the divine ability you just used be exchanged with me?"